When a baby, the all-natural delivery system for a fundamental human brain, when he or she arrives plunged into the world, it certainly enters all riled up. Now, if you're a parent, a grandparent, even an aunt or an uncle, but maybe an older brother or an older sister, you know the promised 3 pounds of gray matter, the natural precociousness in limbo, the awaiting avant-garde, the nascent newborn bundle of joy is a force to not only be reckoned with, but to be tamed, a nearly overwhelming effervescence crying out to be capped. Birth, or as I like to think of it, sensing that its days at the beach are over, the newborn begins groping with eyes, lips, and hands. Like a dove released after the flood, its mind sends out all of its senses in every direction in hopes of finding a firmness, a piece of ground to land on, a part of this existence to call its own. Now, before too long, the encoded little bag of wanderlust that is your pride and joy displays itself in their attempts to hold their head up, roll over, sit up, crawl, walk, and to get into almost anything they can see, day or night. Admittedly, the energy for exploration and adventure in an unbounded brain seems infinite, even if a bit annoying from time to time. Embodying the ultimate meaning of life, the infant lives to test its limits and its parents' patience. Believe me, I know. And if you're a caregiver out there, or a parent, or an older brother or sister, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those moments where you just get a chance to sit down and they're already in to something else. Now, without going all Freudian on ourselves or throwing our parents under the bus, what else could we do but retreat to the mantra of for your own good? We're crawling accidents just waiting for a chance to happen. Oblivious, truly blind to the host of sirens calls. That is life. The real dangers of dodging traffic in the street. The scissors' uncanny ability to find your face when you run with them. Playing with the taunting flames of a fire. The magnetizing allure of electrical outlets just daring you to poke them with a fork. Who could blame them for trying to watch out for us? Our caretakers move to mold our mind, to break the ballast, to numb and negate the native explorer within as a pure defense mechanism. Crafting a list of mandatory thou shalt and thou shalt nots is clearly a survival strategy. What else could they do for us? Even Odysseus needed some strong rope, a mast, and plenty of earlacs to go around. Now, to be a good little boy or a nice little girl, we tighten our limitless into the tunnel vision of our parents. Our mental myopathy and intellectual range of motion, our prodigy narrows into nearsightedness and indentured conformity. But what else could you expect from a pristine mind still in need of a little protection? The great inventor Buckminster Fuller knew of the bite of domestication when he said, "We are all born geniuses. Society very early on moves to degenius us. The natural brilliance, brio, and brawn of the fresh from the amnion infant needs to be corralled." James Joyce knew, when the soul is born, there are nets flung to hold it back from flight. Rousseau knew, we are born free and everywhere we are in chains. Holmes knew, we are all tattooed in the cradle with the beliefs of our tribe, those superstitious fears implanted in our imagination. Wordsworth knew, heaven lies about us in our infancy. Shades of the prison house begin to grow upon us as we get older. Blake knew, if the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to us as it is, infinite. For we close ourselves up till we see all things through the narrow chinks of our cavern. Now, as we grow, so does the list of rules and tools, of codes and conventions, all applied to help us with our balance, flotation, and equilibrium. And yet, there is an agitating uneasiness bubbling within. A hint of something more leads, eventually, to a full-blown metaphysical headache, a cognitive catch-22. Our natural stability is blocked by the very counterbalances we deploy to guard against instability. What once served us in our youth and adolescence is now the source of our servitude. Our web of support now nets and traps us. Then one day, our solo sense of self begins to buck against the weight of its safety nets. The stress and anxiety of a life surrounded and supported by inauthentic scaffolding begins to collapse. The bow breaks as it must, and it's time for the training wheels and water wings of our youth to go, because the cognition of an all-natural being is finally coming of age. A healthy mind struggling within its mid or even quarter-life crisis presents itself with an ultimatum. Remove the outdated crutches that clutch you, or to paraphrase Milton, be forever fallen. We are forced to be honest with who we are. Free ourselves from the outdated. Admit that our safety nets have shelf lives and expiration dates. And from this moment forward, to at least be honest with ourselves, we are the ones stitching our nets, forging our chains, re-inking our tattoos. If we decide to live in the shade of the prison house, don't blame your parents, because it's all on us. Dethroned and evicted from paradise to point fingers, we better look in the mirror. That's why I love the Christian mystic Julian of Norwich. The take, our soul may never rest in things that are beneath itself. Apparently, you can't hold a good soul down. It has a built-in limit for tolerating just how long we ignore and subdue the limitless within. Now, granted, everyone's trying to be careful, but sooner or later, that carefulness is either turned into courageousness or it begins to choke us out. It realizes, even when we fail to, that our safety nets, left in place too long, leave holes in our psyche and blind spots in the personal vision we have of ourselves and of our ultimate potential. Freshly confronted with the realization that Emily Dickinson was right when she said that our brain is wider than the sky, the choice is now ours alone. Our soul has forced us to a fork in the road. Passive or powerful, all natural or neutered, blind spot or birthright, and it's up to us to make the call. That's what I love about this alleged existential crisis. It makes us realize that when we feel like we're just at our wits' end, it's simply because we are blind to their natural length